trace. Stay on. Still fun. Trace catches them. That's right there.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. For anybody new, I am Matt Luna, and we're talking all about the brand new Trace swim bait from 6th Sense. They just came out with this bait. It's a hard plastic jointed swim bait. It does catch fish. I can vouch for that. We're going to talk about all kinds of different stuff in today's video: the line, the rod, the reel, everything you need in order to throw this bait. It's not going to break the bank, and most likely you have the items that you need, the rod, the reel that you need in order to throw this bait and catch fish on it. We're going to get all into that in today's video, so stay tuned. Today's video is brought to you by Waterland sunglasses. Waterland sunglasses are the sunglasses that I wear out on the water every single trip. They have a bunch of different frames that you can choose from. I have a couple different frames myself. I have the Hybros, I have the Slaunches, I have the Assures. Those are my three go-to frames. So go to waterlandco.com, use my code LUNA15. It's going to save you 15% off of your purchase. And also, if you spend over $50, you're going to get free shipping. So head over to waterlandco.com, check out all the different products that they have to offer, and use my code LUNA15 to save some money. You'll be happy that you did. So when we're talking about swim baits, I'm not the biggest swim bait guy. I have dabbled it in the past, and it's definitely something that I need to put more time into, but it's just not my desired way to fish. And when this Trace swim bait came out, it was a great way for me to segue back into the bigger swim bait scene. It's something that I need to have in my arsenal. It's not something that I need to be able to do, but it's just something that I have stayed away from, and I'm really happy that 6th Sense came out with this swim bait, because it's a great way, like I said, to get back into swim baits, to put content out there for you guys, and to show you guys that these things do catch fish.
There's one. Got one on the trace. Stay on. Stay on there. There we go. Oh my gosh, it's got a bait in its mouth already. Check that out. Oh my gosh, look at that, guys. Check that out, so rad. That's crazy, jerk bait in its mouth. There we go. First fish on the trace, guys. Check that out. Not a big one, but it's a start on the trace. First swim bait fish so far. That's rad. That's fun.
So one of the great things about the Trace swim bait is that it is not that expensive. It's $34.99, which I know for some of you guys is going to sound like a lot of money, and for others of you, you're going to understand that that's not a lot of money for when it comes to a swim bait. These swim baits nowadays can go for hundreds of dollars, so getting a bait that actually catches fish for that $35 price point is pretty killer. So this new Trace swim bait comes in awesome packaging. This is super sturdy cardboard, and then when you open it up, take it out of the packaging, you have it inside this nice foam enclosure to keep everything nice and straight in there, keep it protected. It's got awesome super sharp EWG style trebles in there that are going to keep those fish pinned, and it also comes with that extra tail in there in case something happens to the original one. You have a spare. I've also heard some rumblings that they're going to have extra replacement tails that you can buy on the website here soon. I don't have an ETA for that, but that's something you can look forward to from 6th Sense, is being able to replace these tails by just going to the website and buying a few more. So this new Trace swim bait comes in at 6 inches long. There's two different options to choose from. There's a floating and a slow sink. The floating comes in at 1.5 ounces, and then the slow sink is 1.65 ounces. The slow sink is going to take a little bit of time to get down, so if you're trying to fish in deep water, you're definitely going to need to count this thing down. And then the floating style kind of acts similar to a wake bait. It's going to be right there on the surface, creating that little V across the water. This thing does have a nice swimming action to it. I think you're going to be really happy with the action that you get out of your baits. So with both these options being under 2 ounces, you have a lot of rod options that you can use for these baits. It's not going to take a big giant broomstick like some other swim baits out in the market. You're going to be able to probably use a rod and reel combo that you already have. You're not going to have to go out there and buy a specific rod and reel to throw this bait. So the rod that I've been using to throw this Trace swim bait is the 6th Sense Lux model in the 8-foot cranking rod. This thing is perfect to throw this bait. It'll cast baits up to 2 ounces. That's what it's rated for. This thing falls well below that. This thing's got a nice tip to it where it helps cast this thing a mile. It's got a strong backbone to be able to get those hook sets on those long casts. Super long also to be able to reel up the line and pull up that slack, get a lot of good leverage on those fish. And it's also just sturdy enough and heavy enough of an action that's going to be able to withstand casting that heavy bait over and over and over again all day out on the water. But overall, I've been very happy. I like that it has a little bit of that crankbait action in it as well, because you got those treble hooks with the Trace Swimbait and it keeps those fish pinned.
There we go. There we go. There we go. Another one on the trace. Come on, fish. There we go. Yes. There we go. This guy was right on the bank. Right on the bank. Look at that, guys. Pretty cool. Not a giant, but still fun. Trace catches them. That's right there.
Another note with this rod is that it's going to be able to withstand the strength that you need in a rod when you're throwing a heavy braided line like 65-pound test, but it's also soft enough that it's going to be able to do the job when you're throwing those 15 to 20-pound fluorocarbon lines that you're doing a lot with some of these styled swim baits. It's going to be able to do the job. You got that versatility, so no matter whether you're going to be throwing the braided line possibly, or the heavy mono with the floating ones, or some of that heavy fluorocarbon with the sinking options, you're going to be able to get the job done with that rod. I just think it's a great option for this bait. Now, when it comes to choosing line for the Trace Swimbait, I definitely think I lean towards fluorocarbon with the slow sink option. I think being around that 15 to 25-pound test is going to be the best scenario for you to be throwing this bait on. I think I've been using it on 12 a little bit lately, but that's just because that's what that reel already had on, and I didn't feel like changing everything out. I definitely think that 15 to 20-pound test is going to be the best spot for you to be in. Now, if you're throwing the floating one, you might want to go with a braided or a monofilament option, because those lines don't sink like fluorocarbon. The braided line and the monofilament line float, so you're not going to be taking away any of that action, especially if you're throwing that floating one and you want to sit in one place for a little bit. That fluorocarbon will sink, so it might mess up the action on your bait if you're throwing the floating one. But I think you can't go wrong if you go with that 15 to 20 to 25-pound test fluorocarbon on the sinking one. And then if you're going braid, I would definitely go with a 50 to a 65-pound. And if you're going with mono, I would still stick with that 15 to 25-pound test mono as well. Now, when it comes to choosing a reel for this Trace Swimbait, I don't think you need a giant swimbait reel to be throwing this. I was using the Daiwa Tatula SV. It's a 200 size reel, and it got the job done perfectly. I wasn't over casting it. I wasn't pulling all the line off the reel or anything like that. There's plenty of spool space to be casting this bait. I would recommend going with a 7.0 to 1 gear ratio or something in that range. I think that that's the best place to be in for this bait. I was personally using the 6.3 to 1 gear ratio, but that's just because that was already on the rod, because that's what I like to crank with, and that's what I primarily use that rod for, is cranking, and I like that slower gear ratio. I think you can get away with that, but there were times where I felt like I would have liked to have a little bit higher speed reel to be able to get those fish in a little bit faster. I think with that 7.0 to 1 gear ratio, you're going to be able to slow it down enough to slow roll the bait, but also it's going to be fast enough to be able to pick up that slack, pick up that line, and get those fish in fast, because sometimes on a swim bait, you just want those fish just skimming across the top of the water, so that way they can't get a chance to spit that thing out. So when we talk about how to fish this bait, Really, the sky's the limit in terms of options on how to fish this bait. You can fish it super slow and you can fish it super fast. It does not blow out when you reel it too fast. You really can't reel it too fast. It keeps that action. It stays straight. It's not blowing out to one side or another, so you can truly burn this bait back to the boat and it still runs true. I've caught fish burning it back to the boat, and I've caught fish slow rolling this thing, so you can really do anything that you want to do. Obviously, you're fishing around submerged grass or something like that, you're going to want to keep it up above that grass. If it's just under the surface, then that's where that floating one's going to come into play for sure. If you're going to be fishing that slow sink one down deep, you're going to have to count it down because it doesn't sink very fast. But if that's something that you want to try to do, and that's something I'm definitely going to try to do. I haven't really had an opportunity to really target some deep fish with that swim bait yet, but it's definitely something that I want to do. Cast it out there, just let it fall all the way down there and just slow reel it back. If I can keep that bait down in those depths, I am super confident that those bass are going to eat that bait down in deep water. They ate it up shallow, and I'm really thinking that they're going to eat them down deep as well. I think something to try for sure when you're fishing this bait is changing up your reel retrieves. Change up that speed that you're reeling it, slow roll it sometimes, give it a couple fast cranks and stop it. When you do that, it kicks it out and it almost turns all the way back around and it would look at the fish. Sometimes that's what the fish want, and you could be slow reeling it, give it a couple hard cranks, and that bait turns, and then those fish just smack it as soon as that bait starts to turn towards them. Other times they just want it burned and they're going to just come up and annihilate it. Other times they want it slow rolled and they're just going to come along and they're going to munch it. So play around with your retrieves. That's one of the great things about this bait, is that it's going to be able to hold up to whatever type of retrieve you want to do. It's going to hold up to that fast retrieve. It's not going to blow out or anything like that, and it still has that good action on a slow retrieve as well. Links to everything that we talked about are going to be in the description of today's video. Make sure to subscribe to the channel right now, and also I'd love it if you binge watch some of my content by clicking on some of the videos that are on the screen right now, and I really appreciate you guys watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.